Welcome back, friends. It's the Half-Ass Crafter. I'm Laura, the Half-Ass Crafter. We're going to do half-ass crafts, but I think this might be my most ambitious video that I've done to date. It's at least closely tied with my three-part how to make paper doll collage dolls. Magazine collage, altered doll, I don't know. Those things that I make with the people. Anyway. So I've had a few people ask, ever since I started my channel, the number one question people ask me is, how do I make backgrounds? How do I make backgrounds? How do I make backgrounds? I'm going to tell you the secret of making backgrounds. That's it. We're going to do it. I'm going to tell you the secret, and you're probably not going to like it, and that's okay. But I've created this list here to hopefully help you get started. But the secret to making backgrounds, look, I'm not even making wait till the end. I'm just going to tell you before we even do anything. The secret to making backgrounds is to make a background. That's it. That's the secret. If you want to learn how to make backgrounds, just put something on the page. So I have this art journal here. I originally had this art journal for a specific purpose, but it sort of fell by the wayside. And so I'm like, you know what? I wanted this anyway to be an art journal. So I'm just going to make this my art journal, and we're going to make some backgrounds in this journal. And we are going to, you'll watch, but it's kind of like we're doing it together. Know what I mean? So I'm going to show you all the different ways that I can think of to start a page by making a background. I don't know how many we'll get. Maybe this is a video of how to make 30 backgrounds. I have no idea. I have a list of things here. I'm going to tell you how I think about constructing an art journal page. And then if you're having trouble getting started, hopefully this helps you to get started. That's all we're trying to do. This is not by any means, shape, imagination, form, me saying this is the only way to do an art journal page. There is no wrong way to do an art journal page. So whatever you want to do, you go do that. That's fine. If you're like, those ideas are dumb, I just want to smush paint on paper. Absolutely. Please go smush paint on paper. Ooh, look at that. What is that? That's gorgeous. It's kind of shimmery. Must have some Lindy's magical shakers in it. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open to a page. Okay. I have a blank page here, and I've got this list. So what I've marked is a prep layer. This is completely optional. You don't have to do this. So the prep layer is gesso, and I will, I'll type this all out in the magazine description. What the heck was that about? In the video description, and you can just copy and paste it into, some sort of Word type document, so that you can, print it out if you want. So this will be down in the description, this whole list. So don't freak out if you're like, I can't see that list. It's okay. You don't need to see the list. The list is below, and you can read it. You can write it down, whatever you need to do. So the first is, do you want a prep layer of gesso? And I'm going to do some of these pages with gesso and some without. But I think we're going to start without gesso. Okay? And then the way I think about my art journal page is I have large coverage, right? So stuff that's going to go all over the page or almost all over the page. I have medium coverage. That's stuff that's going to take up little bits here and there on the page. And then I have my small coverage. So those are more kind of like details, right? You can see I have like fine tip markers. So maybe I want to do some mark making. I could use fine tip markers or acrylic markers. Stamps, you just put stamps on one place. Stencils. Stencils could also be on your medium coverage, but I always forget that there's a paper layer that I can do. So that's why I've got these marked out here in the detail layer. There's washi tape. So, you could put little pieces of washi tape down if you want. The stencils can also be on your base layer, which is also large coverage. But I'm keeping this pretty simple to divide it up so that I'm like, oh yeah, and there's this. Oh yeah, and there's this. So, and remember, the most interesting thing about this is, the thing to keep in mind is that you can always go back to the next layer and put that down. So there's usually a focal point. When I first started art journaling, I was like, who needs a focal point? Focal points are stupid. I don't want a focal point, blah, 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 blah. Because I don't know. Maybe I thought I was special. And so I did a bunch of stuff without focal points. And I was like, well, this just looks like backgrounds. And that's what ends up happening because there's no focal point. There's nothing for the eye to sit and rest and look at. So the easiest way to do this is find a focal point that you like and then start working around that focal point. And then the thing that's going to separate what you think it looks like a 5-year-old did it or a school-age child versus art, as your brain's going to categorize it, is your fine detail layer. That's the point. That's the point where this goes from I just smushed paint on paper to I now have an interesting piece of art in my art journal. So that's a lot of talking. I'm going to stop talking and we're going to start with the base layer of acrylic paint because that's just easy. So I am going to actually start with, I've got some distress paints up here and I think I'm going to start with those. But I am going to have a little disclosure. I don't like my distress paints. They sit right in front of me and I never use them. And maybe I just picked bad colors. Maybe there's, you know, way better colors that I could have gotten and I would use more often, but I never use them. It's very rare that I use them. So I've got peeled paint and speckled egg, and I think I want to add, yeah. So these are going to be my colors. And you know what? I mean, like, I like these colors. They're fine, but they just don't like get me excited about much of anything. What if I did broken china? See, it's all the same. And I think that might be why I don't like them that much, or why I don't use them that much, is because the colors are too muted for me and I want bright, bold colors. So I don't know, maybe that's it. I'm not sure, but I don't use my distress paints that often. So if you don't want to go out and spend the money on those, don't do it. So there's lots of ways that you can get paint onto your page. And I am going to put some paint down, and I'm just going to take a card and I'm just going to do this. I'm just smushing paint onto the page. And the beauty of doing this is it dries so fast, so fast. So that one I pulled down. This page I'm going to pull up, and all we're doing is getting, like, nothing needs to be perfect right now. Absolutely nothing. There is no perfection here. You want messy, you want loose. That's what you want. I'm going to go sideways. Just pull some of this out like that. There we go. All right. And this is going to dry pretty quickly. Okay. So that was one way of doing it. And then I want to do another way of putting paint down. And I'm going to use, where is it? I'm going to use a dauber, and this has a foam tip on it. And I know I'm not using stencils, and a lot of people use stencils at this stage. You know, they'd put down a stencil and and that's fine. You can do that if you want. I'll do that on another page. This page is, how do I get started making backgrounds? Well, you just start making backgrounds. And this kind of looks like baby food green, doesn't it? Eat your peas. So I'm just putting paint on the page, and I don't care what it looks like. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm just putting the paint on the page. And I live in the high mountain desert. It's super dry here. All of my paper is so dry, and sometimes it's kind of annoying, but it's where we are. It's what I have to work with. And, you know, I probably need a piece of paper under here, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It just doesn't, like, it really doesn't matter. The point, well, not the point. I think the most empowering thing about art journaling and mixed media is how it doesn't matter. The messier you are, the better your art will look. I can almost guarantee if you are interested in art journaling and mixed media, you're interested in the messiness. And probably because you don't allow yourself to get messy. And so I'm going to challenge you to allow yourself to get messy. Okay, next up I have Crackling Campfire. And this is going to be pretty bold when I put it on this background. So I think what I'm going to do, let's see. Actually, I'm going to save the crackling campfire. I'm going to set it aside. We're not going to use it yet. We're going to put down the paper layer. Now, my paper layer is what I have, and I just made this list of things that I always forget to use. Napkin, collage paper, gel plate print, or like a painty paper, printed / scrapbook paper, an old book or magazine, like printed text is what I was going for there. Paper ephemera. So maybe, you know, you have a newspaper or something like that, or, you know, an old, like receipt book type thing. Music paper, that could be also in the paper ephemera. Tissue paper and washi tape. Washi tape counts. So if you want to use washi tape, you can. I kind of like this layer to look ragged, so I probably wouldn't use washi tape because of the straight lines. But you're free to do that. Like if you want to run a piece of washi tape down the middle, go for it. And then you could layer, you know, paper on top of that. That's fine. So let's see what I want to do. I have these collage papers from 49 and Market. They're actual collage papers. What's the difference between scrapbook paper or printed paper or old book and collage paper? Collage paper is so thin. And some collage paper you can even like see through. So let me show you this collage paper from Tim Holtz. It's almost like a tissue paper, but it has this shiny layer on it. So it's been coated in something. You know what? This looks really good actually. So we're going to use collage paper. So what I'm going to use to attach this, so you can use Mod Podge, and if I had an actual Mod Podge container to show you what it looked like, I would show you. I put my Mod Podge in these condiment dispensers because then I can just squirt it down and brush it on, and it's much easier. But we're going to use regular gel mat, so you can use either one, Mod Podge, gel mat, whatever floats your boat. I like to use these silicone brushes because for me, I feel like they're easy to clean and it's not a brush, and I feel like I get good coverage with it. So, all right, so I want this up here, and I really probably, if you're new to doing this, I would probably recommend that you put a little piece of wax paper or deli paper in between your pages, because trust me when I say you're going to glue those suckers together with your matte medium or your Mod Podge. So you can use either. Somebody did ask me once in the comments, they're like, what's the difference? And you know, there isn't much difference. It's whatever you want to use. I would say buy a little thing of both and see which one you like best. And the thing I like about these little spatulas is, you know, you saw I had some gel medium over here. Well, I could just scrape it up and put it where I need it to go. The big difference, so if you're using Mod Podge or gel medium as an adhesive like this, there isn't much difference. The big difference is this is made to mix with acrylic paint so that you can like do all sorts of stuff and kind of make a translucent acrylic paint. So that's what this is made for. So, you know, you do you, whatever you want to try. And if you're, you know, if you're watching me do this and you're thinking, I want to try that, but I'm not like an artist and I probably shouldn't, you know, do this. You need to do this. Trust me. Trust me on that. I'm going to put down this. I'll speed through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. I'll speed through the process. I might voice over some of the speed through, but there's no way that I can do a video that isn't like 8 hours long with all these different background techniques. So that's why this is going to be the most ambitious video I've made, because I'm going to have to like, it's going to take me days to edit this because I'm such a perfectionist. So, you know, maybe that's why I like being messy in the art journal, is because I'm a perfectionist in all these other ways. Who knows? So I'm going to do this and then I'll speed through it to get you there to the end. And hey, don't worry if your collage paper gets wrinkled. That's called texture. And in the mixed media world, texture is amazing. The beauty here is that you can really just do whatever you want to do, and you don't have to worry about, is this what I'm gonna want when I get to the end? Don't think about that. So if you put this down and you're like, yeah, I like that, that looks interesting, you can't second guess yourself and say, well, hang on, is that what I'm gonna wanna do at the end of this? Like, is this gonna be in my way? Am I gonna cover it up? It's okay if you cover it up. I have so much paper in this room right now that I could cover many, many, many things up over and over and over again and still not use all of my paper. So you may want to keep that in mind when you are doing this. Yes, it's a background, so it may just go into the background and stay there, and you may only see little bits and pieces of it, and that's okay. Just keep going. Just keep going. Your brain may say, no, 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 this it's all a focal point. It's not all a focal point, because it can't be. Then your art's going to be chaotic, and you're not going to understand why it's chaotic. So let it go. It's all going to be okay. Okay, I have to let this dry. So while I'm going to wait for this to dry, I'm going to pull another art journal out, and we're going to do another type of background. So let me get that ready for you. Okay, so now I have this art journal page, which is black, and that's okay. And it's all going to be okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, what am I going to use? What am I going to use? I think I might prep this layer, and I think I'm going to prep it with some, you know what? We're going to prep it with clear gesso. So this is clear gesso. This bottle, I need to get through it so that I can use my squeezy bottle of clear gesso. So I'm going to put a little bit on there, and I'm going to put a little bit on there. And then I will use one of these brushes, but I'm going to wet it. So everything here is very dry. You may not have to do this. If you're in Florida, you're going to be like, why are you wetting things? Like, I just walk around damp 24/7. I wet things because if I don't, this brush would have just absorbed all of this gesso, and it would have really frustrated me. Also, I forgot how frustrating these brushes are. These are very cheap from Joann's. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to throw it in the garbage because it's super frustrating. And I'm going to use a wet paintbrush. So I wet that brush. That's way better. I have more control. Whoa, don't sling your gesso onto your desk. That's ridiculous. And you don't even have to cover your whole page. This is not about precision. So I think maybe that's another thing. People are like, okay, well, there's a formula, there's a secret. I just don't know it yet. The secret is you have to keep doing it. Whoops, over and over and over again. That's literally the secret. The secret is practice, 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 and then practice some more. And as you do that, you're going to get better and better and better at it. I promise. I'm still not very good because I don't practice enough. I'm not in here doing art journaling pages all the time. All right, so I'm getting this gesso down. I'm trying to get some coverage everywhere. There we go. Okay. So I want this gesso to stay wet for what I'm about to do. Okay, so I'm working on a black background. And since I'm working on a black background, the Distress Oxide sprays show up better on a black background. So we're gonna start with some blues. You shake up Distress Oxide spray like this because there's a little thing in the bottom there. It's not actually a ball. It kind of looks like a staple. Living on a ranch, it looks like a fence staple. I found one time and I was like, whoa, what is this? All right, this is also starting to curl. So what you can do, if your pages start to curl and you're like, stop that, you can clip them down. I'm just grabbing a few pages underneath this page and I'm just gonna clip it down like that. All right, so I'm gonna get this going and I wanna see what other colors I have. All right, I definitely want this blue. It's Prize Ribbon is the name of this blue. Ooh, there's also Faded Jeans. I have a lot of blue. Tell me what colors you like, Laura, without telling me what colors you like. All right, so what I'm gonna do is while this is still a little wet, I'm gonna spray it with some sprays. And the cool thing about Oxide is it's a pigment, right? I think it's pigment based. So it comes up. Dye based will soak in. Yes. So the other cool thing is, see how it oxidizes on the wet? So if I spray it, it's gonna do this oxidization. Okay, and now I'm gonna dry it. I'm gonna dry this, and I may tilt my book around to let things run around while I'm drying. Okay, so I'm gonna dab some of this up, and if you've ever watched a Diane Reevely video, she would be like, use another piece of paper. I'm not using another piece of paper. So you'll notice that when I spray the Oxide with water, it turns this blue color, and then you can see it on the black background. So that's the whole point of using the Oxide sprays, is they will show through on the black background. So now I'm gonna shake these two up and then I'm gonna spray them. I'll blot them, I'll dry them. We'll do the whole thing over and over and over again, and I'll speed through it and you can see how it goes. Now, the one thing I would advise is that you blot out the center, because this stuff will leak through the little holes in the paper and get on your other pages. And maybe that's okay. It does give like a grungy little look to your other pages. So maybe that's okay for you. But just know that if you do this, there is a chance that you could go to another page and there might be some ink soaking through that page. A lot of times people will put down a piece of tape over that and then do all their stuff. You can do that as well. So that's also an option. Another thing that you can do is spray things and then just let it sit. Don't dry it with the dryer. Just let it sit and naturally like absorb into the paper and absorb into each other, and then see how it dries. But you'll see that using the paper towel and blotting, I get this like, it almost looks like stone or concrete look. So that's really kind of cool. I don't know that it'll dry that way, mind you, but it does look kind of neat right now. Okay, for that one, what I did was I held my bottle up higher and I just barely pushed. I was just barely pushing so that it would just sort of spit out. And then I'm gonna spray this with water and then I'll hit it with the heat gun again. And the water should bring out these really nice oxidized dots. And if you let the water sit long enough, it will bring out those dots and they'll look really neat. But I don't want these green to really blend in too much, so here we go. Okay, so that's cool. That looks like an outer space picture, doesn't it? Like, that is really cool. So now that's the large coverage. And do you understand what I mean when I say large coverage? So when you're doing a background, just stop and think, what's going to cover a large area of the page? And then go with that. I've got one more that I really want to try, and I may try more once I try this one, but I do have one more that I really want to try. So I'm going to set this off to the side because it's still a little damp. And I'm going to get another art journal, and we're going to try another background. This is just the base layer. Okay. I'm going to put deli paper on these pages because I do have a lot of collage in here that I don't really want to mess up. But I also know that there is a chance that I could inadvertently mess up that collage. I'm not really going to worry about this page, but I'll put a piece of deli paper in there just to be on the safe side. Okay, so this is another one that I just want to try, but I haven't tried before. I'm going to get these 3 colors of Distress Oxide. I have Saltwater Taffy, Peacock Feathers, and Mustard Seed. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to stamp with the stamp pad. So stamp pads, right? Spray ink, stamp pads. We did that. We did the acrylic paint. We just haven't done watercolors. So I'm going to take this. It's okay if you touch the other ones, if they aren't perfectly straight. Remember, we are going for imperfection. We are not going for perfection. And yes, my ink pads are very dry. And I think that that's just because I live way up here, out in the desert where it's hot. I do have some spray. I do have this ink refresher spray. Let's see if it works. Let's see if this does anything interesting. So I gave it 4 little spritz. I'm going to cover it and let it sit there for a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. Okay, I'm going to let it sit.
All right, and then let's see what happens. Does it need to be in there longer? Not really. All right, and then we do Peacock Feathers.
That works pretty well. Okay. The ink refresher spray is worth the dollars. There's what it is. Ranger. Okay. So now I've got this on my background. I could spray it. I could leave it alone. I could spray it to see what's going to happen. Let's spray it. Whoa, that really woke it up. That's crazy. How neat. Okay, I think I want to close the book on itself and then reopen it really quickly. Whoa, not what I wanted to do. But also, it made a gorgeous green. Okay, let's dry this. Okay, so I made a mistake, right? Or it didn't go how I thought it would go, or whatever, however you want to put it. The interesting thing is when I dried it, the squares came back, so that was really cool. So I've got a couple of options here. I can re-stamp the squares if I want, or I have Distress Oxide sprays in these same colors, so I could use those. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to, since I sprayed these with the refresher spray, I'm going to see if they are back to being kind of juicy. And I'm going to re-stamp. Okay, now I'm going to dry again. Now I have this background. It's black. I'm using the Distress Oxide so that that will show up because it's a pigment base, so it sits on top of the surface and you can see the color. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what's my next layer? Do I want to go ahead and put paper down? So here's my thinking. These edges are very stark, and I don't think I want them to be that stark. I have some inference paint, and I want to see about using it. So let's get that out. Okay, this may not be something that you have on hand, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to have it. I just want to try it. So I have this paint that like shows up different colors on different, if it's white or if it's, I got a green, or not a green. I got a yellow, a purple, and a blue. I guess really we're in a pink and not a purple. So there's the pink. Okay. And I haven't worked with this paint a lot. This is by Amsterdam. It's called Pearl Blue. If you put it on white paper, it's one color. And if you put it on black paper, it's a different color. And I think that that's called inference paint. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I'm a half-ass crafter, not a full-time artist. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what? Let's use this. Okay, so I've got my list. I've done my big base layer, and then I have this paper layer, and then I have a detail layer. Well, the detail layer has stencils. I can use a stencil in my base layer with my paints and my colors, right? So I'm gonna go get, do I want a stencil? Okay, this is just one of my stencil books. I have a few. There's also some die cuts in the beginning.
Oh, I like that. The stars are neat. Those are letters. That's a neat mask. Those are kind of cool. Those blocks are interesting. Would they be interesting on top of the other blocks is the question. Flowers on top of blocks. That's a very organic. Ooh, let's do that one.
Why did I choose this one? Because to me, I'm like, this looks like a cinder block wall, you know, from like mid-century. And then I thought this would look like a vine climbing up the wall, right? So I'm going to use this blue, and I'm going to get a dauber, and I'm going to put a little bit of that blue right there. And I don't want this to be perfect. There's some water here that I'm soaking up because these are very dry. I don't really want this to be perfect, so I'm just gonna, and I'm going in a circular motion because I don't want hard edges if I can help it. Nice. That's so subtle. We're gonna do that in all three colors. So I'm gonna do another blue one. All right, so I'm gonna do 1, 2, and then one in the middle. And you could switch this up by flipping it over so that they're not going the same way if you wanted. That's an option. I'm going to not use as much in the center, not as much paint. And the paint is activating the Distress Oxide, and that's okay. I don't mind that. So this is very subtle. I can see it here because I have 3D vision. You only have 2D vision, so let me tilt it around. So you see how there's those 3. Now I'm gonna use the pink, and I'm just going to use the same dauber. I'm not going to be really precious about this at all. And I've never done this. This is a real-time experiment. So there's the pink one. Here's a pink one. And I am layering these. So the pink one, I do want to touch the blue one. I do want them to overlap one another. And I do really like this effect that I'm getting when the Oxide ink is activating inside the acrylic paint. Ooh, that's super cool. I like that one a lot. Now we're gonna do yellow. And I wanna touch the red and I wanna touch the blue. And remember, this is just the background. So if you're like, oh, I did this thing and I hate it, you can paint over it. You can do whatever you need to make it better. But just keep going. You have to work through the ugly. Okay, this is super cool. All right, I wanna put a little bit right here. All right, there we go. Okay, so, and I know you may not have this inference paint or whatever the heck it's called, and that's okay. You can do this on a white piece of paper. The Oxide will work on white as well, and then you can use regular paint. And you could use your gel medium to make that paint a bit more translucent if you wanted to get this translucent look. So let me show you what it looks like. That's really neat. Okay, I want this to dry because it is a little bit wet. So I want it to dry. Let's go get our original one back and see what we've got going on for that one. Haha, just kidding. I realize this doesn't have the next layer, which is the medium coverage layer of napkin, collage paper, gel plate print, printed scrapbook paper, old magazine, paper ephemera, tissue paper, washi tape. So what I want to do is I want to put the paper layer on this one. So I'm gonna go get something. Napkins? Probably napkins. Hey, y'all remember when I got that super awesome Happy Mail from Michelle and she sent me like all the napkins ever created in history? Okay, maybe not all of them, but at least a lot. Well, let's use some of those.
So I'm just gonna go through here and see if I find anything that I'm like, oh yeah, let's use that one on this cool background.
Okay, so these are the napkins that we got. Let's see what the vibe is that we want for this page. Oh, I've used that one before. That's really cute. I don't think that the black ones aren't really going to show up. They're going to kind of fade into the background. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and pull all the black ones out. These succulents are really cool. And I have 2 of them. This would be neat because it's not going to fully fade into the background because it's cream colored, so it'll show up a little bit. So maybe we use this and these. So these I'm going to put back. Okay, so this I want to be more in the background than these. I wouldn't, well, I don't know. Maybe I would want, shoot. Maybe I'm just going to contradict myself. Okay, there's a lot of ways to do this. This napkin came apart very easily. That definitely does not always happen. You can also use napkin. So what this next layer really is your texture layer. And you can also just use white napkin on there. You can use texture paste. We'll get to all that in my backgrounds 201. Okay, and what you're gonna do is, so we've got these, and now I'm just gonna tear them like that. And the easiest way to do this, so this is this corner, right? So that's going to be the easiest way to do this, is to just put the corner with the corner because it's already got 2 solid sides. Now you can, of course, you know, I could rip this up into shreds and like paste it all over the place, but I'm going to put this in the corner because I have an idea of how I might want this to look. Also, the thing to keep in mind is that your borders usually aren't going to have your focal point on them. They might, but not usually. I'm going to make sure that I get a lot of gel medium down, and it is going to reactivate these dyes. I was trying to get the dyes into the gesso that we put down so that maybe the dyes wouldn't reactivate as much, but sometimes you can't win it all, you know? And it's so dry here that this is drying as I'm trying to get it down on the page. So let's put this down. And it's okay if it wrinkles because I want some wrinkles. Wrinkles are texture and we love texture. And you want to put on the top, you definitely want a top layer of your Mod Podge or gel matte medium because you want it to soak through the napkin. That's going to give you the effect that we're going for. And that effect is that this will just melt into the page below, we hope. And when this dries, it should melt into the page. So I'm gonna dry it with the heat and see how it goes. Okay, that's not quite dry, so I'm just gonna put this deli paper on top. And there is a slick side. I wanna put the slick side down because then it should lift off. And then I'm gonna put another piece over here, same method, but this side I wanna use Mod Podge because some folks have asked me, like, what's the difference? Well, we're gonna do one side gel matte medium and one side Mod Podge. And then you can see what the difference is. And the cool thing is I don't have to clean my little brushy thing here. I know there's some gel matte medium on it, but that's okay. So Mod Podge is way thinner. It's more like an Elmer's glue or something, which can actually be good when you're doing napkins because the napkins absorb all of that. It really blends into the page a little bit better. But these, because it's so wet, the napkin is just gonna lay wherever it lands. So you're gonna have a little less control over what happens. And it's okay if my napkin rips and tears and buckles and all of that. Remember, the point is imperfection, not perfection. So my napkin's already ripped. I'm gonna kind of push it down a little bit like that. This is a texture layer. This is what's giving you, and maybe it's physical texture. you know, like texture paste that you can touch and see, or it could just be texture in that words are texture to your eyes. So it's just texture that you see. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to layer, well, actually the next thing I want to do is I want to put a piece up top somewhere, but I don't want this hard edge. And yes, you can like run a brush pen on this if you want to like just make it a smoother line. I don't really like, I'm not trying to really go for that right now, so it doesn't matter. All right, I'm gonna put my Mod Podge down. Also, the napkin should absorb a lot of this. Okay, so now we have these 3 pieces. Okay, so this one I'm 99% certain is 3 layers because this still feels too thick, and it is. And there is like a tape trick that you can do, but I've always just been able to find the ends. So here's what's really cool. Let me show you what you sometimes get. Sometimes you will get this piece, which is very subtle. So we're gonna use a piece of this, and I'm just gonna put it like right here. And I just want you to see what it looks like, because this is gonna be way more subtle. And you have to like such a light touch when you're doing this part, because you will rip it. And that's okay. Like, it really doesn't matter if you rip it. So the Mod Podge works really well with napkins because the napkin will absorb the moisture in the Mod Podge, and then it's gonna go down and stick a little bit better than the gel matte medium. Okay, and now I have this one. Run a smidge of Mod Podge right there. Really light touch. I don't normally put things in the center of my art journals, but here they are. I'm trying new things, and I pulled that up, and that's okay. And you can see that the matte medium and the Mod Podge are fairly similar, but because this is a little bit thicker, it's not getting the deep like melting into the page that I was looking for. So I'm going to use Mod Podge everywhere. So again, put in the Mod Podge very lightly. I'm going to brush that on, and it's just going to soak through. And then it will, as it dries, it will adhere the napkin to the other layers because it will soak down through the layers of the napkin because it's so wet. So if you're trying to do this and you have Mod Podge and matte medium, you may want to use your Mod Podge, but obviously you can use your matte medium too. And for this, I think I would let it naturally dry because what I really need it to do is soak down. And there's a little break on that napkin, and that's okay. So we're gonna let this dry, and then we're gonna come back in and do some more to it. So remember, we're just building layers upon layers upon layers, and you can do as many layers as you want. So I've got this as large, medium, small, but you can keep running through these 3 over and over and over and over. The only thing you wouldn't really want to do is you wouldn't want to put your focal point down and be like, oh, I hate this, and then try to like make the background different around your focal point. I mean, you could, because you can do whatever you want, but it's much easier if you do your layers like biggest coverage to smallest coverage and build up. But you're free to do whatever. If you get all the way to the end and you're like, this sucks and I hate it, by all means, gesso the crap out of it, erase the whole thing, start over, go from there. There are no rules. No one's gonna really care. So I don't like that these are all like sort of disparate areas. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this piece up here like so. Wow, I really am not good at estimating where things are. All right. And when I put stuff over the top, I kind of like to go back and forth and over the creases and the edges to try and get my medium under the edges. So if I put this one here, it should connect these 2 pieces together. And look, I'm not a professional anything. I'm just over here playing, and maybe it's gonna look good when I get done, and maybe it won't, and maybe I think it looks bad and you think it looks good, or I think it looks good and you think it looks bad. It doesn't matter because there's so few things that really truly matter in the world, and your art journal is your art journal, and you should play in it just to play in it and enjoy it. It's just fun for fun's sake. That's kind of how I feel like glue booking is. And I think now that I've done the glue booking and I'm not so serious about it, I feel like I can do the art journaling and not be so serious about it. A lot of Mod Podge on the edges because you know what we always forget? The edges. I don't know why or how that always happens, but the edges are never coated in enough glue. A little bit of this, which is the underlayment piece, and I think I'm gonna put it up here, or maybe I want to put it over here. I want to connect these two together, I think. And see, I'm just continuing to play based on what I see and what I'm thinking and feeling. So now that is gonna attach itself to both of those. And now those are cohesive. All right, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of this flower stuff. Just want a smidge. And I'm gonna put it right here where I just put that Mod Podge down because I feel like that edge was a little weird. Okay, and it broke, and that's okay. I'm just gonna pat it down and it's just gonna be some texture, and I'm gonna leave it alone and let that Mod Podge soak in. Okay, now we're gonna let this sit and see what happens. And I know y'all are like, you covered up that beautiful background. That's okay, we can cover up the beautiful background. It's no big deal. So this one, what I want to do is I want to do another layer on this one. You know what? This would actually be pretty. I could put a piece there. I'm going to show you the water brush trick. So you take a water brush and you do this. Like so. And then voila. It just comes apart. But I feel like that's too rectangular. So water brush again, and it wasn't quite so straight. And you just gently pull like so. All right. And then I'm gonna put that there. Yes, I am. Right now. And you can use your Temu papers. You can use all of your old book pages, all of that fun stuff that we collect, and then we're like, I don't know how to use it. Well, here we go. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay. And then I have this other piece over here. So another thing to remember is repeat. So you want to repeat things, and you want to repeat them in an odd number. So if you're lost and you're like, well, where do I go now? What do I do now? You can look at that list that I've created, and you can say, okay, well, Laura says that my next step could be paper. All right. Then you're going to want an odd number of those papers. So I've got 2 here, and that looks okay. But if I put one here, I think it would make the world of difference. So then I could put this here to connect those 2 together. So it's okay to stop and be like, okay, I don't know what to do next. I don't know. Let it dry. Give yourself drying time. You're giving your art drying time, but you're also giving yourself drying time to let what you're doing soak. Think about it. Let it sit there for a minute. Let it dry because it's going to look different when it's dried. So now I have 3. 1, 2, 3. So what I will probably do is put my focal point over here, and then I may do something else over here. So now I have a layout. Now I have something in my brain. Okay, my focal point should probably go over here. I don't know what my focal point's going to be. And then because I have these 3 pieces of paper. Now this could also completely, totally, utterly change. So there's a little air bubble there where the matte gel medium didn't really get in. So I'm going to put some Mod Podge on it and hope that Mod Podge soaks in where that matte gel medium couldn't. Okay, I'm going to leave all this alone. And the thing I'm going to do next is I want to use the campfire, crackling campfire, and I want to put a very light, small stencil on this page. I'm going to set this off to the side so it can dry, and we're going to find a stencil that we like. Ooh, these dots are perfect. I was thinking of dots. Let's use the dots. Okay, that page is drying. We're going to put the dots on it that we picked out, but I need to wait for all of the Mod Podge to dry. This page needs its book page or its medium coverage layer. So we have napkin, collage paper, gel plate print. Ooh, we're gonna use gel plate print. I will be back. I think that my favorite thing about having a YouTube channel is that I get to say, by the magic of television, and things just appear. So here are my current gel plate prints. Some are on paper, some are on, I think this is actually tea bag paper. Some are on rice paper, some are on cardstock, some are on dyed paper. Like there's a lot of different things in here. So these are all on paper. I don't think that's what I'm going for. This is deli paper. I think that may be closer to what I'm going for. Ooh, this is interesting. This is a magazine transfer of Aretha Franklin. And that may be kind of interesting to put in the background. Let's pull that off to the side as a maybe. Okay, so I went through my gel plate prints, and I do like this Aretha Franklin, but I feel like the background is very busy, right? There's a lot going on. I also found this, which is a nice texture, but again, these are both very busy. So I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, what I need is I need something that's gonna calm this down a little and give our eye something to focus on. So my thought was I have this collage paper, and I could do this collage paper, which would be interesting. And when I put a gel matte medium or Mod Podge on here, it's going to reactivate this. So whatever I put on here is going to pick up these colors. Also, I have these Dina Wakley collage papers, which I actually think may be more what I'm thinking I need. And let me show you. So if I used one of these, that's going to tone down what's going on. You'll still be able to see what's going on, but it's definitely going to tone it down. And I think, I'm looking at all the ones that I have here. I think I want to use this one. So we're going to try that. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because this background is very busy. And I feel like what I need is to tone it down, and that was pretty ridiculous. But you know what, let's just try and see what do we get if we just do a corner of it, because maybe I'm not quite sure. Maybe I don't want to commit, and that's okay. You don't have to commit. So I'm going to put this on, and it's going to activate the Oxide ink, and that's fine. We don't mind that. And we are going to get that down. And again, we're going to go light. You don't have to go as light as a napkin because this is definitely a bit hardier than a napkin. Okay, that's kind of cool. All right, let's see. It looks like ripping it this way is easier. And you can see how this is activating. Ooh. Well, I've just glued these pages together. You can see how this is activating that ink underneath, and that's fine. And I'm overlapping. I'm going to trim these off, but I'm overlapping this for a reason. And the reason is so I can just cut it, and I don't have to worry about that straight edge. All right, so there's 1, 2, and then let's put another piece down here, because I feel like this is a very horizontal layout. It's not very vertical. If it was just one page, I might do vertical to sort of make your eye go up and down, but I want your eye to go across both pages. And we're just using our stuff, y'all. Just use your stuff. Remember, if you don't use it, that's worse than making bad art with it. I think I just flung Mod Podge into my tea. It's all right. Gives it a little flavor. Ooh, Look at this cool napkin. Let's use this cool napkin. So again, we can go back into those categories, those 3 main categories over and over and over again. And that's gonna give you a lot of texture. If you do this and you're like, what am I missing? You're missing details and you're missing texture. You're not doing enough. So if you're like, I don't wanna mess it up, you're just gonna have to mess it up. You're just gonna have to mess it up. I'm sorry. No one wants to hear that. I understand, trust me, because I don't want to hear that. But the truth of the matter is you're just going to have to mess it up. And small pieces really give you more texture than large pieces. Remember that as well. It's the small details that really do a lot to help things out and give you that look that you're really going for. And if you find a page that you really like, stop and really look at it. Because I think a lot of times we don't really stop and pay deep attention to what it is we're looking at. I think we're like, ooh, I like that page. And then we go to the next page. And we're like, ooh, I like that page. And we go to the next page. And then we're like, I don't know why any of my pages aren't turning out like their pages. You're going to have to slow down and take a look at those pages and figure out, what do I like about this page? What is speaking to me on this page that I really like? And right now, what's speaking to me on this page are these flowers. Wow, those are super good. Ugh, these flowers are great, y'all. Oh my gosh. Wow. I didn't realize I was gonna like this as much as I do. Kind of unexpected. You wanna put your crease in first and then come out from the crease. All right, now we're gonna let this layer dry. And then let's see what we got going on for the next layer. I didn't use this piece of paper, and I still could. I could tear out little bits, and I could put, you know, a little piece there, and I could put a little piece down here. Oh, let's do that, actually. That doesn't look half bad. So now I'm getting these smaller. So I went big, and now I want to go small. And again, the cool thing with the spatula is you can kind of scrape up excess glues. And then let's do a little strip. Maybe we could do 2 little strips. We could do one there and one over here. Maybe not. Maybe we just do a little strip right there. Now we're gonna let that sit and then we'll figure out what to do with it next. Okay, everything's dried. Magic of television. I went and had lunch. So let's recap. We did the base layer with acrylic paint. We did a paper layer with, we did napkin, we did collage paper, and we did paper ephemera, which looks like an old book. Same thing. So now we have our detail layer, which has stencils. So, and remember, you can do as many of these as you want. I wouldn't mix the acrylic paint and watercolors because that's going to be a little weird, but you do you. I don't want a whole lot, so I'm going to, you can't see it, but I'm really smushing this on my glass mat. And then I'm just gonna do that. Yes, yes. Okay, so let me tell you about stencils, what I've learned, not that I'm any expert in this. You want to connect 2 pieces together with your stencils. So I'm going to go from one side over to the other side, just like that. Same thing here, that. Ooh, that's cool. And then I think I want some up here to kind of connect all of these together. You do not need a lot of paint. I think that's something that a lot of folks kind of don't realize, is that you really just don't need a lot of paint. It's just not necessary. All right, and then I'm going to try to go down the center here. So this paint's kind of drying a little and you can't see it, but I'm going to spray it just a small spritz of water, and that will reactivate it because it is distress paint. And luckily, that's kind of how it rolls. But it is wetter now. I'm not getting more paint. I'm just using the paint that I already have. Oh, that's cool. I love these colors. So you'll notice I did around the edges, I kind of went a little bit darker. Then the, I gotta fix my desk. I did a little darker around the edges than the center because that's where I'm gonna put my focal points. So, or focal point. Maybe there's one, maybe there's two, who knows? I haven't even figured out what my focal point is yet for this page. So